whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color. I can't see what his end game is. The Republican Party is the party of racism, is the party of white supremacy, is the party of hate. This is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Everybody wants to go back and drag that piece of history up, but they don't want to go back and deal with what their ancestors did to the indigenous people and to Black people in this country. You got to go. And you got billionaires talking about going to space, and Jeff Bezos, go, never come back. I hope you get lost. This man has lost his mind.
Boom! Come on, girlfriend. And boom, it's Dr. Vibe here. What is up, everybody? Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that collaboration, last year in 2022, because I know we're in the new year now, but in 2022 and 2021, reached out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 fathers around the world. So as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're doing our first State of Things of the new year. Everyone's had a rest. Hopefully it's been a good rest, and they're going to be on in just a second. We got a few things to update you on. So I don't want to cut into the ladies' time, so I'm going to do some Dr. Vibe time first, but indirectly they're involved. First things first, this program is sponsored by Ebony Occasions. Yes, Ebony Occasions is back, and they have some wonderful cards to offer during the Valentine's season. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you how you can do your Valentine's Day orders, because Ebony Occasions has cards for every occasion. So what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to just show you how you can get a discount for their latest collection of Valentine's Day cards. So I'm going to put up on the screen the website address. There is ebonyoccasions.com. Now, what I've got to do is got to get you to the page that has the Valentine's Day collection. So just bear with me. Let's see if we can do that. So let's go here. So we're going to go to, so there's their Valentine's Day, Tuesday, February 14th. Shop now. Now, when you get to this page, you want to add to cart. And then when you add to cart, you want to check out, which is here. We're waiting. Come on. There we go. Okay, now for the visitors and the viewers of State of Things, there is a discount code you can get. If you put in Ebony 10, you will get 10% off your order. So that is for the family of State of Things. So that is how you do it. So we're going to stop doing that share. And Ebony Occasions loves what State of Things is all about. So that's why they're back. So that's one thing down. Second thing, just want to tell you that a big thing happened on New Year's Eve to the Dr. Vibe show. So those people may or may not know. Depends how much you watch. If you only watch here, I'm going to tell you anyways. 2 hours before the end of 22, something magical happened with the Dr. Vibe show. And this is where the ladies come in, because they are part of the success. When I put up this screen here, this is my YouTube platform. Take a look here. On New Year's Eve, I passed over 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. I'd been putting it out there for the last few weeks before the end of the year, and boom, on New Year's Eve it happened. And one of the reasons are the three ladies here. Absolutely. And over the last 28 days, I've had over 55 new subscribers. So big shout out to everybody who is subscribed, or if you're thinking about subscribing, subscribe, and on YouTube, subscribe, and also notification. So I want to say thank you to that. So that's another thing that's happened. So I think, some other things coming up this Monday on the Morning Vibe. A friend of State of Things, Dr. Tatjana, she's going to be back on my Morning Vibe show talking about media in 2022 and what to look forward for in media in 2023. So you know what? I'm going to say one other thing. The lady saying you're talking too much. So I'm going to make it really quick. I'm going to be hosting a 3-part webinar for an organization called Innovation Guelph that's in the Ontario, Canada area, and they help out businesses and entrepreneurs, and they've asked me to do a 3-part webinar series on how to start a podcast. So if you want to go to this free webinar, it's on the 19th January, February 2nd, and February 16th. It's from 1 p.m. Eastern time to 2:30 Eastern time. And I think even if you sign up, you can get the replay. All right, that's it. As always, you can subscribe. The ladies think I've talked too much, so it's time to get the real stars of the show on the platform. So here we go. Sorry if I talk too much.
Where's LaLa?
She's right here.
Hey.
Hi. What great news. That's awesome about the subscribers on YouTube.
It is.
Well,
Really.
that's all of you are big contributors to that.
Oh, well, I got my box from Ebony Occasions
Yes.
and amazing. So I am so excited. I wanted to thank her personally because I wasn't sure, also I was away a little bit for Christmas. And then when I came home, it was such a nice surprise to see them.
Well, what
And
I'm going to do.
I fell in love with them.
You're
yes,
kidding.
my daughter too.
You're
My daughter
kidding.
did. Mhm.
Yeah, my sister liked them too. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them.
Well,
And the designs and the illustrations are so wonderful. And it prompted me to go and get a calendar. And I'm sure she's got those too. Now I'm like wondering all these things because I still use a book to write all my dates in. And I use a calendar. It's just easier for me to put it. And I also use things like vision board calendars. So sky's the limit. I'm sure she's going to have them all. So I like paper. I love it. I like it because I remember more when I actually physically use an extension of my body to write it down.
Yeah.
Not typing it, child.
Yes.
So,
well, I'm glad. What I will do is, I know maybe she may be watching this live on replay, but what I'll do is if I can get her to come in before a show or after a show and chop it up with you ladies, and you can express it directly, the love you have. And again, I'm going to put on the screen, go to ebonyoccasions.com/discount and then put in the code Ebony10. The coupon code is for the website Ebony10, and it entitles the customers to 10% off their order. It's one promotion per purchase. So,
well, what was so nice about even having those cards and now this new calendar I have, it has all the holidays and even all the trendy holidays that are going on.
Yep.
So I can actually plan ahead and send out cards on the to-do list. And actually I have a bunch of them that I can write and go, you know what? I'm going to send this out to somebody. And also it maybe doesn't even have to be an occasion. It's just so nice to send a card or something in writing.
It is. It is.
I love getting
I love getting them. I love sending them and I love getting them. So sometimes a nice surprise in the mail is nice.
Very nice. Other than bills.
Yeah.
Right.
When I was packing to move, I was taking things out of the desk and putting it into a box, and I still have a card from my sister from 1996, from like October 96, when she was at Clark Atlanta and I was a grad student at Fisk, and she'd sent it to me just to say hi.
I still have a bunch of cards too that I saved from, my baby's shower. Like, I don't know why. I know I need to get rid of some of these things. But I found a lot of cards from a long time ago that are precious to me, because I had a fire once in my house. I mentioned it before, and I lost a lot of things. So to have some of those things, it was kind of nice to have them, because that's all I have. A card or a letter or something like that. Nice.
So we got family that, of course, who's in first? Jen Myers, of course.
Hey.
Hi, Jen. Happy New Year. Thank you for always being here. And we have a lady, Ms. Estrada. I don't know who that is, but good to have you here. Thanks to the family. And then Ms. Estrada says, what a beautiful website, Ebony Occasions. And she says, congratulations on the new subscribers. Jen says, congratulations. Wig Maniac is in the house. What's going on, Wig Maniac?
You know, I did that I gotta say, do you remember I did that? Wig Maniac had posted this sort of during the whole voting, flip your wig campaign. She had a whole thing about getting out the vote, and I did a little video for her. So she's so cool. So, I mean, Wig Maniac is cool to do things. I know we all were, love Wig Maniac dearly.
Yes, we endorse that 150%. It's all good. And how were your so everyone had a decent holiday?
Had a beautiful holiday.
Yeah, it was nice.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, LaLa sent us a family picture today on the Twitter back channel. It was so nice. And I said, man, there's a lot of people. Who did the cooking?
I know.
We actually went to a restaurant so that we could spend time talking to each other. And I just bounced table to table and talk to other. It's nothing like being able to sit down with your family and laugh. And I always get so emotional. And I spoke last night because I'm the one who put the dinner together. And I always tease my husband. I was like, I'm always such the crier. I get up and I'm like, and I just don't love you so much. It was crazy, but it's nothing but love, because you know what? In the end, no matter what's going on in the world, it is your family. It's your family, whether you choose the family or not part of your family. It doesn't have to be. It all boils down to your connections and your roots. And I'm a firm believer in that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a new year kicking off. We'll get to news stories in a moment, but I want to get input here. So 2 tours have been announced already this year. Maybe you've heard them, maybe you haven't, but I want to know which tour you'd rather go see. There is New Edition and Guy, or Anita Baker and Babyface.
New Edition and Guy.
New Edition and Guy.
I'll pass.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Right.
I saw New Edition on the Heartbreak tour, and then I saw them again, I want to say sometime in the late 90s, and then again in 2000. And then I got to interview all the members, so that was different. So I have always enjoyed New Edition.
I think I'd be in the mood to hear. I remember them during my era, because you're kind of like going, oh my God, damn it, they're number one, and that, whatever. But so I've learned to appreciate other people's stuff as time went on, and also it's an era of things, so it might be kind of nice to just have a nice memory of an era that's gone, and to get a little sentimental. That's what these things represent. And they are.
I was a bigger fan of 90s stuff.
I do too, but I feel like these artists, these types of artists won't exist anymore. So I think it's important to celebrate them, because the weird artists that are coming out, a lot of them coming out now, are so, they give their audiences so little. And people like New Edition and Guy and all those people still come from the old school of being performers and professional and giving your all, like when you're out there. It's not like therapy session.
Right.
Oh my God. Or all of them always talking about what didn't happen when they were, I love, just some of those lush sounding choruses are so wonderful.
And New Edition still performed like the same way that they performed years ago. Like when they did the New Year's Eve special, they were like, even Bobby knew all the steps this time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't
They
do
were
like
like,
how they break out and allow themselves to show their solo pieces too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I think that will be the interesting part of this tour. So you get to see Bobby, Johnny, and Ralph do their solo stuff, and you can get to see Belle Biv DeVoe. You know, when I
Oh,
did
wow.
when I interviewed Michael
Wow.
Bivins on about Belle Biv DeVoe, we were talking. He said, "You know what? This was in 2011 when I talked to him. He's like, you know what? For the last 30 years, we've been making so much money off of just Poison, just the
Yep.
song alone."
Yeah.
He's like, he said, if I knew then that all I had to do was record that one song and
song.
never have to record another one
Right.
to live off, he's like, you just don't know. We've been eating off that for 30 years.
Wow.
Mhm.
And that's all it takes. It really does.
Wow.
Mhm.
Really? Because everyone I've asked has said Belle Biv, New Edition and Guy versus Anita Baker and Babyface. So
It was young. You just feel young. I still remember being in my car with the top down listening to their music. So I want to feel that, revisit that.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
And I was like a preteen and teenager, so
Yes.
that was that time.
I would
Please.
love to hear Fair Weather Friend. I love that song by Johnny Gill. I love that song.
Yeah,
That is-
Johnny Gill's solo album was nice. I
Yes.
think he went a little,
It was.
I think he went a little left when he did the song "The Floor." My friend, she passed away, but we used to, oh my gosh, we used to laugh about that song so much because when you actually read the lyrics are like, really? Is this what he says? And they make absolutely no sense. None.
Right.
Okay.
But that just shows
Sometimes
you
those
how
are the
good of a
best
singer
songs.
he was. He could sing the phone book in those
I
days.
know.
And it wouldn't have
know.
mattered, There was so much talent everywhere. And it's so funny. Each trend that came musically,
Yeah.
whether it be like Prince, and then you had Jam and Lewis, and then you had the whole New Edition sound and all these things.
Yeah,
it was
LA
the Babyface. It was just
yeah,
big.
wow,
It was
that,
just,
yeah, that
they were just delivering, like, it only encouraged everybody to find their excellence, and I
that's
love
what's going to
that.
make that New Edition and Guy tour sound really good too, because New Edition and most of the members recorded songs by Jimmy and Terry.
Yep.
And then you have Teddy Riley with Guy, so you're gonna have sounds of the same era. It's gonna be really good. Anita Baker and Babyface would be nice to see, but I think I would be put to sleep after a while because it would be too much. It would be too many ballads for me. Just
all right.
All right. Like I saw Jill Scott, and her show was entertaining. She did break it up, but it was one of those shows that had a lot of ballads.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how much money the songs and production of LA and Babyface, Teddy Riley, and Jam and Lewis have made?
Wow.
Billions.
I don't think I can count that.
Like there was a time that
that was it. It was just the three of them.
Was
that was
it. The three of them. And one of the best remixes I've ever enjoyed. There's a song called "I Don't Want to Fall in Love." Jane Child.
Oh, Jane Child.
Oh yeah,
the Teddy Riley remix.
Teddy Riley actually was doing really good remixes before Diddy started trying to do the whole remix thing. Like Teddy Riley's remix for SWV right here with the Human Nature interlopation in there. And so, his remix is really good.
All right. Well,
I mean, and what a lot of people don't know is that Teddy Riley wrote the show for Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh.
Yeah.
That was his very first song.
All right. Well, there you go. So there's a reason why we're talking about this family, but we're not going to tell you yet. There's a reason why. We're teasing you about something, but we'll leave it at that. So also Cinnamon Canela says, Happy New Year. And it's cold here in Florida for a change.
Maybe
you can have it. You can have Jurassic Park. The iguanas are falling at the trees.
No, it's cold here. And Black Beauty, hello, Black Beauty. Welcome to 2023 and State of Things. So you know what? Let's get it started. And this is the hot news item in America right now. What is it? This is the hot. More documents found at Biden's Delaware home on top of the stuff that's already been found. Let's talk about it, family. What's going on with this?
wrong.
I mean,
woo. I can't with him right now. If you, okay, so people keep saying he doesn't know. All right, I'm sorry. This is the wrong time not to know. We are in complete turmoil here in America. We got idiots running the nation, and you, the president, somebody's responsible for this, and ultimately it falls at the buck of your door. So I'm sorry, I just can't listen to any excuse about why you have this at home, and I'm not too thrilled about any of our documents being thrown around anywhere and open to anyone. And so to me, it's not just them. If you ask me, all of Congress needs to be looked at, because how much you want to bet every last one of them
all of them
floating around. That's what I got to say about that.
You know, I think I'm more annoyed at the way the media is handling it than anything else, because the truth of the matter is, and this is something that we really have to discuss, they knew before we knew. They knew going back to December and said nothing and sat on it and said nothing on purpose. And I'm kind of sick of media people and people calling themselves journalists getting the information that they're supposed to communicate to the people and sitting on it till they can collect the most money or have some major breaking story or get a book deal or what have you. And this is why this is coming out the way it's coming out in the media, that it really bothers me. It's like when Maggie Haberman knew something about for like 3 years and didn't tell us until a week before she had that book come out. That to me is just, it's just so frustrating. If the media knew, how come you just didn't tell us?
Because that's the way of the world. Everyone is out for themselves and everything that they can get and put in their pocket. This America doesn't matter anymore. It is what you can get. The American people, they don't care about us. They love to keep us in what I call the ball of confusion. As long as we are out here fighting amongst one another, we are not looking at them. Okay, so as long as we're fighting and arguing, they're up there having their parties and popping their crystal or whatever they want to do, and they're all in the same back door. And then they come out and go, okay, you go out that door, and we'll go out this door, and then we'll go out here and we'll fight. And then they get out behind there again, and they're doing the same thing. I am over it. The American people are the one who are getting it up the butt. Period.
Well, I agree with you. I think that I think it's being leaked by somebody that is either a foreign government that basically had this information, has bought the files, knows what's in them, or secondly, it's just a couple of the people that Biden has hired and they're inside the house as usual. I think that.
Well, remember how they found the documents to begin with? They didn't start in the house.
Exactly,
but
aside from that,
which is really weird about that.
But yeah, and it's very weird. But here's the thing: I have been for the last couple of years spending part of my life, trying to defend Democrats and everything, and that was a fool's journey. It was a fool's journey to defend any politician. It's a fool's errand. You just can't defend any of them. AOC has turned out to be a big old chump. Katie Porter is a pig. She wants everything at the table. There's so many people that right now I'm so over. And Biden has a bunch of home that he took home, having a son who is a user of drugs, who God only freaking knows. I mean, I'm sorry. What planet do you live on, sir? And this it isn't me just coming for him, but it's like, look at Donald Trump. Your kids are a wreck. Your kids have amounted to nothing anyway. They're nothing. They're nothing without you, sir. They're unremarkable human beings that we have in these key positions of our government. They're unremarkable. They do nothing. And their kids and their children and their cousins and their this and their relatives. And the same with Congress. I've got Eric Swalwell, who's because he's been removed from some committees, and it's like hooked up with a spy. It's like, who are you people? All of you are dirty, all of them on both sides, all of them, and in between, because don't forget the other little piggy, Cinema, who decided, I'll just sit in the middle and wait. Is this nobody? I can't take our country seriously.
No.
We've got Merrick Garland, who does the absolute least, and everybody's been around here saying he's doing the most. Get out of here. Because he's decided to hire a special counsel. Oh, he got on that quick, didn't he?
Jill, that was interesting because my dad always likes talking about politics, especially American politics. And we were watching MSNBC this afternoon. He was just watching it, and he says, man, he got on that quick.
Because these are his friends. You don't live up in Greenwich, Connecticut, and not remember that you're a part of a percentage of people who are really rich and not know some of these other super rich people that you're investigating, and you haven't crossed paths, or your dumb kids haven't crossed paths. Your kid who works at a kidney center cross paths with this one or that one. Come on. These old dudes are living for their kids who have jobs now to carry on the line of corruption. It's beyond anybody's business. And to see any poor person who makes below $100,000 in America defending either side, you're out of your mind, because it's not about us at all. It's all about them and their war and how they want to make their money. Even Elon Musk, all those battles and all these comments that everybody else is freaking out about, it's not for us. These are signals to other rich people, to Jeff Bezos, to everybody. Like, yo, this is what I'm doing. It's their game. We are on the sidelines, but they got y'all all wrapped up thinking we're in the mix. We're not. Right. And the same goes for these documents. Biden, all of this stuff. It's like, dude, get it together. You made a mistake. And just because you come up, you're Mr. Goody Two Shoes who goes, I think I have documents too. I remember that kid in class. Fuck off. This was wrong. All of it's wrong. And let's put it this way. Donald Trump shouldn't be indicted for whatever he did at this point, because it's either somebody in the National Archives who doesn't know what they're doing. And it also is about, do we really know what's going on with our classified documents? That's the bigger question of all. We need to figure that out. Like, didn't you all have somebody walking around? Do we really even know how our government is working at this time? Who clocks that shit in and who takes it out? I got a library card. The bills, people get a library, you got to pay this. Don't you sign out? So the same stuff that they threw at Trump's side, and I'm not defending that monster, that creature. I'm saying they're all cut from the same fiber, and they all been zigzagging and doing their thing. But, and I'm not going to take anything away from the stuff that Biden has actually done that's been amazing. This just happens to be a pretty thing that went on. I mean, this is just what it is, and they are going to come for him.
Oh, they're coming
because they're going to come for him. We also have Americans who didn't think it was important enough to go and vote the House and make sure it was Democrat either. Let's not ever forget that.
I mean, they're going to come for him, but very little of it is going to stick, because they're really aiming their guns at Hunter Biden.
How do we know if it's going to stick? Because the whole point is, how do we know?
It's not because
but
anything
what
that
doesn't stick is Donald Trump.
But
how are you going to go after him? Was it King Solomon? Because that's what Merrick Garland is doing. He's King Solomoning, which is, let's just this is all a wash now, because we can't charge any sitting president. Yet nobody ever went for Donald Trump because he was sitting. So where did that law go?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Weren't we told that
you're not going to do it anyway?
But as your dad said, Merrick Garland, he sure did go after this one, a special counsel. Why don't you wait till he's out of office to deal with it? Clowning us. I'm over it. I'm over all of them. I don't give a what happens to any of them.
Well, the other thing too, why did he go after it that far? Why do you think he wants to keep his job?
I told you all he was clowning us.
But he knew that he was on his way out.
Sneaky
he had to,
Scorpio.
Right now, he knows that he can't be fired, because it would give a different optic. So they're not going to fire him right now.
No, they're making all of the heavy lifting go on people like Letitia James and the people in Georgia, Fannie. All the black women are doing all the heavy lifting for what the white man can't do. and won't do, not can't do, won't do. They got Bragg in New York. They have been pushing all the heavy lifting of Donald Trump just for even more what? For more racial tension?
Yep.
And DOJ, the head of it.
Yep.
Speaking of Fannie is going to come after. I think she has the goods.
The cleanup women. That's what we all are and yeah.
I think Fannie has the goods
These
though,
people.
just because she asked for that 2 weeks before she announces the grand jury's the outcome of the grand jury. If they weren't going to indict, they could have just said it at that point. Right now, she needed 2 weeks to get a judge to sign the indictment so she can file the indictment. And then remember, Trump
and so her life can be up in who knows?
Well, no, Trump is not in Georgia. He's in Florida, so they'd have to do extradition.
No, but
so
like I'm saying, she'll be the one receiving all the threats.
Oh yeah,
she'll be like the women in Michigan who are holding it down.
Mm-hmm.
And where's the DOJ? He failed to do an investigation in Michigan. Garland hasn't even done it about so he can really so everybody's supposed to move forward, but our DOJ can't even come back on the back end and go, oh there's some illegal it's about to go down. Yep. And we're going to have to look out and have these women's backs. No, he's siloed everything, and I really mean it. The Republicans were right about him. And he should have never been a judge.
Nope.
And he probably should have never been the head of the DOJ either.
Okay, so let's just catch up with some comments. Black Beauty saying, LaLa, Aisha, and Jill, I'm with all of you. All this did was give 45 and the Republicans ammunition, as well potentially easy out for Merrick Garland to testify excusing 45. Also, she says, well said, Jill, well said. And she's saying, yep. Translated the ultimate case of the kettle calling the pot black.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to say this, though. I mean, as far as giving Trump and Republicans ammunition, they didn't need it. It wouldn't have mattered. They were going to find something anyway, just because Kevin made all of these concessions. They were going to investigate him.
They were, but anyway, Aisha, with all due respect, I don't like it when the Republicans make a charge that I have to agree with them on. Some of their other stuff is lunacy, but what happened is when you're handing them ammunition, we've dealt with their ridiculous, asinine claims. But when you hand them something that actually morally challenges your morals and your own personal hypocrisy, you got to be straight up with yourself and go, yeah, that wasn't cool. Who am I?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I think my point of view on this is that, yeah, it gives them ammunition, but they don't really know exactly what to do with the ammunition that they've been given, because they are still all over the place with all of their investigations. They have not come. I mean, they still today, if you go and you watch what they're talking about, they mentioned this, but they're really gung-ho on this whole, what was the thing that they're investigating? Wokeism, and they're investigating the FBI and all that stuff. I think it's supposed to give them ammunition, but they are so disorganized, they don't even know what to do with that ammunition.
They will get it together. They've got 6 and 7 different groups of people working on the best way to tackle it. They are like how people do in football games. This is the strategy. This is the play. And they all sit there after a while and go, well, that play's no good anymore. What's the next one you got? That's how I think they operate. They've got people that sit around like their own personal little think tanks of evil. Like, oh, what can we do? Because that's what the Democrats need to be doing. They do not practice Art of War, Sun Tzu Warrior. They do not. If you've ever read Art of War, when you're going into battle, you don't just have one plan. You've got a few that you go, okay, that's not going to work anymore. This was our top priority. But yeah, no, I'm sorry. Those people, as they accumulate more information and hoover it up like freaking anteaters, they'll have a new plan tomorrow. Because Didn't you find
Yeah,
it
but
weird
they're,
that even
they're
Ali
sitting in a
Alexander
place
has
where
come
it's
back
not
on
going to
the
go
scene?
anywhere. I think that's the difference between when Democrats were doing investigations on things that merited investigation. The House right now is sitting in a
They'll impeach him for this.
hole.
This is impeachment worthy. This is
They
impeachment
don't have.
worthy.
Well, here's the thing: they
If
don't have.
Trump gets indicted, they're going to impeach for this. It'll be a straight gun there. It'll be, why not?
Okay, so
they're already calling for him to be impeached.
They
over
are,
no
but
reason.
like
Now
they have basically staved off. What they did for Donald Trump was, we're going to hold this off so that Trump can still run for president. They don't even need, that's all this was. Let's kick this can out of the way. You all, now, if you want to make this chess move, we're going to make this one. That's all this was. It's about chess. They took Bishop to do it, but they don't get. That's chess. Sometimes you sacrifice the bigger story or the biggest man you got, but you're basically holding the Dems' feet to the fire with their sanctimonious.
So here's my question: the Republicans can't do much because obviously they don't have the pull in the Senate, right?
Votes. Well, they don't have the Senate or the presidency, so nothing is going to go really anywhere. Those two, that's why I mean they're sitting in a hole where they can spit fire and do all they want and stomp and kick and everything. But the other side of it too is that they don't have. Kevin knows he doesn't have the votes even in the House. When you look at the votes that Democrats need to pass anything, which is only 6 versus the 4 that McCarthy needs, he doesn't have he would have to get 218 of all the Republicans to agree on one thing. And that's not going to happen. What you're going to see, the first thing you're going to see before they even get to that point is someone try to vacate the speaker. All it's going to take is just one Republican on that end to be like they don't want him and they can ask to vacate the speaker. They will have all 216 of the Democratic votes because that's how the Democrats have decided they're going to vote on the vacating the speaker.
And then they're going to put Donald Trump in the position of speaker.
Well, they won't have the votes for that either.
Yes, they will, because no sane Democrat and no sane Republican, after that setup moves into that, would ever just say no. They're going to do what they're told. It's kind of like that dude who rolled up and talked to Matt Gaetz, and nobody knew what it was, but his eyes were just like, he changed his vote immediately. Yeah, there's something. And I'm telling you that, them putting Tulsi Gabbard as the VP and all, they got a plan, and it's the long game.
They've had this plan for a long time. They're just waiting. They were just waiting for the right positioning. All this that's happening in Washington has nothing to do with the American people.
Nothing.
It is all about power.
Absolutely.
And that's what they were waiting for. Okay, we're going to put somebody here. We'll sit back.
We'll sit back in the cut, and they did.
Here. And now everybody is lined up, and we are.
Yeah.
The problem, though, the problem I see, though, is that even some of the things that they've been trying to put through, they have splintered on, and they're just I think that they're going to implode before they will be more organized, like you guys seem to think. I think they're going to implode first.
Give them time to circulate their
because remember, Kevin McCarthy he got people to vote present, not to vote for. Those people did not vote for him. They voted present, which just takes their numbers out of the total vote. That's why he needed fewer votes.
So if they
let's keep McCarthy out for a few minutes because we're going to talk about that in a few. Go ahead, Aisha.
I mean, the same could happen on the other side as well. And that was the one thing that the Democrats knew. If anybody in that caucus had just voted present, Kevin would have needed less than the 217 that he needed to get elected. So when it comes
wild cards happening, we've got old stupid Katie Porter who sees that she's about to leave. Okay. We have some really
and remember, he's also one vote short because someone just died.
Yeah, but they're going to put another Republican in.
No, it's not. It's going to a Democrat.
Oh.
Okay, let's stop the McCarthy. We'll get it. We'll just get through the last few comments here, then talk about McCarthy as speaker. So, Cinema Canella says, I think it's a setup. He also says, with the papers at Biden's home.
Could be.
Black Beauty says, it didn't help when President Biden got on national TV and admitted that he left documents in his garage next to his Corvette. Translated, ammunition. Shake my head.
True.
Also, Black Beauty says, Aisha, I build Jill's point. They're going to play the long game and consolidate their voting power. Republicans will be won, unlike the Dems.
Because one thing they know about the Dems is we are not as unified as they are. And one indicator was when AOC made that move not to vote for the omnibus, for the package. And what helped the most about her is that this is holding out on something that takes care of Black mothers and maternity situations. She was holding out for people who aren't even living in America right now. I mean, I really mean that. Hope she loses next time, because that's not her priority. It's to the citizens here who live here already, not you holding out for people who are coming across the border. And I'm as fair as they come and want people to experience immigration, because God only knows if any of us have to leave or for whatever purposes. But for holding hostage a bit, not even being able to hold hostage, to set yourself apart, because that's a big show with her. And I don't like it. Solidarity at this time. She picks the weirdest battles. And that was wrong, because these are people who are not even across the border yet. This is somebody who isn't even thought of. It's Matilda walking a dirt road right now on her way to here in Mexico. So you're going to us up with potentially, but the fact that she did it, that's why Republicans can do what they do. Because I'm going to tell you something. They better whip her in shape. They better whip her in shape. It was wrong because it was too, I'm like, we needed that. We need all of these things for our sister. It just showed me she has no solidarity for African-American women. None.
Well, no, I mean,
and
I
don't like that
anyway.
But we shouldn't have. We shouldn't have that. That's not what the party stands for. So,
well, I agree. But the one,
and I used to support her, but I'm done.
But the one thing about Democrats, I have to say, that in times when we have a Democratic majority, you see more of the disorganization, like you are seeing on the right. When they are in the minority, they are able to consolidate their voting power a whole lot better and get people to fall in line. So that is why that's why I disagree with what Black Beauty's last point was about Republicans playing the long game. They can play the long game, but they'd be playing against a party that, because they don't have anything to lose at this point, there's no point in them having dissenting votes.
They are playing the long game as to potentially put Donald Trump in as speaker. He even joked about it. It's not. And I'm going to say something. I don't mess around with that man anymore. When he starts like clowning and joking, they can say that he's not running the party. Some of it, I think, is for optics. And I think they're still playing because he will snatch if they start getting too far out of hand. And I think he's not done snatching. I think he will snatch his party in place.
Now, he's going to snatch them. He was saying that, that Mar-a-Lago or whatever down there is the South White House.
And he's been saying that.
Setting that up.
Yeah.
He's been saying that. But
for those that don't support him or whatever, I think there's going to be okay.
All right, let's move on to something that happened over the holiday season. And officially now, Kevin McCarthy is finally the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. That was quite the show.
Quite.
It made us look like absolute idiots to the rest of the world. It was absolutely horrible. It literally made me sick to my stomach. You're going to continue to go on and on at the expense of this. Force people, because we saw the Godfather moves that happened on the floor.
I know.
We know what was said in your boy's ear. because you could see it all over his face. The next thing was,
he also told Sheila Jackson Lee what was said to him, which should have told people that he has no loyalty to anyone, because Sheila Jackson Lee's a Democrat. He went and told her, and then she was on MSNBC 5 minutes later telling everybody what he told her.
But she should have minded her own business personally, in my opinion. Why she have to waltz up there? What was it to her?
You know what? No, because because one of the things, Democrats were sending their own spies over for one reason and one reason only. Kevin had been telling people on his side that if you can just hold on, I've got 6 Democrats who want to vote for me. That was what he told his people in his caucus.
I don't know. She looked stupid.
The only reason they found that out was because that's why Hakeem came back and said,
"What is this, Avid Elementary?" Because that's another thing. You start making people think that you need it or give what they're saying. That to me was like, why? Nobody else was rolling around up there, but there she was with her nosy. Sit down.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was talking to the man who threatened her.
Well, I was over her before we even started. So you know how I feel. She didn't make anything better. They didn't improve anything. What, so they can then be on TV talking? How about y'all just stop sharing the information and even talking about them for 1 week? Just I'm so sick of them. I have no respect for any of them. None. Not one. Not a one.
I'm right there with Jill.
If Hakeem Jeffries doesn't whip those in place, and I mean the men and the women, we're in trouble, because AOC oversteps her position and she needs to fall back in line. I'm surprised she even voted for him, frankly. What'd they have to promise her? A bunch of, what in a bill? Has she ever passed a bill? I know she aligned herself with Matt Gaetz before to do a bill. Come on. These people get along when they want to and then when they don't. And I'm tired of my chain being yanked. And I'm really tired of my life being occupied with their nonsense. And they gave themselves a raise where they don't make $174K a year. Now they're making $212.
We can stay in here as long as we want.
They gave themselves a raise. I don't think they should be allowed to give themselves a raise when the economy is in the toilet. You need to struggle the way I have to.
I'm telling you.
So you're going to struggle for my they're going to struggle for my money for next time they want to get voted in. They're going to struggle because this getting off of nothing like I used to.
Side of it too is
I'm so angry. This was ridiculous. And whoever cleans Biden's house, clean it up. Sitting out there in pages by a Corvette, the height of smugness. But, it's in my Bentley.
But they paid for they're going to try and pay for their pay raises by cutting Social Security.
It's like landlords.
That's the bad part.
I never even trusted the fact when people had landlords who do background checks on people and you have to give your Social Security. And then I've often thought to myself, what if they have some crazy relative in their family who busts through and gets everybody's information? And there you go. Then it's like identity theft, because nobody takes you seriously when you run your business. Your business papers should be in, first of all, that's our papers, and they should have never come out of the White House. Can they put like tabs on them next time? So in my opinion, Donald Trump, I can't stand. But what's the difference here?
Nothing.
They each have egos. No, it's egos. Let me show you what I got.
That we have one thing that might help mitigate some of this stuff. Some stuff, I think they have to be a bit more careful about who they let do the packing when we do change the administrations. They the day of. I was reading this because my sister had me read it.
So we're going to throw Felipe and Padma and Lakshmi all the way down under the bridge now because they did the packing. No, you get somebody.
No, what I'm saying is that they have it's like a 2-hour window to pack everything up in boxes.
Yeah, but you have all week. And then take year.
And then take them and put them wherever they're supposed to put them and get that new house looking like somebody already lives in it. I think when it comes to clearing out someone's office like that, those people should not be tasked with doing that.
I agree,
That
but we got a whole boatload of people.
If it's and people who have security clearances to read through those papers and be like, okay, you know what? This shouldn't be here. This should be somewhere else.
There's a couple of girls I follow on Instagram who have a whole company on how to organize. The reality is, people in the West Wing and these who are sitting around, when you know your company is folding or closing, I've been in a company when it was in a merger or sold. There's a lot of time in advance about what to do. There's portals, there's stuff that you're storing. Don't give me that. They're supposed to be the government. I've actually dealt with moving a company and moving stuff. They're all liars.
Let's get back to Kevin. So what is the aftermath of Kevin McCarthy? How long will it last?
Nothing.
Aisha's right. Till somebody says, I don't like you today.
Next week or week after next, someone's going to say they don't like it. I suspect it will be George Santos, because Kevin won't tell the New York delegation to make the New York delegation back down.
Oh, no.
If Kevin doesn't, George Santos is going to be like, well, I'm a vote here.
But actually, in all honesty, with Kevin, what he did respond about George Santos when they were like, but he lied on his resume. Kevin wasn't wrong. He said, everybody here has too. And I'm going to tell you something. He ain't lying. Most of those there, people embellish their resumes every single day. How many times have I even seen people embellish their relationships knowing Prince? First of all, they say they met him once. Then the next thing you know, they dated him for 6 months. Give me a break. And they make a life and a career out of it. So imagine what people's resumes in the White House are like. God, it's so frustrating, because the reality is, you get rid of George Santos, you're going to have to get rid of a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. I don't think what he did was that bad. He lied. Isn't this the day of the liar, the age of the liar? Everybody lies.
Everybody lies.
Why don't they all just walk around with wired up to
right now? That's the focus for the scapegoat at this point in time.
Absolutely.
That's all.
He played them. I'm like, hey, it really sucks. And it's really up. But you know what? This is America, and it's one more clown show. And because nobody takes the country seriously, this is apropos. That's why people don't believe in this country. It's really sad to say, but he filled in all the loopholes. Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes. Not like, you know what? Half of the other, I've told you, real estate developers in America don't either. He's not the only one. And I can't stand Donald Trump. But the reality is, he ain't the only one sitting there. So they should all sit up there and try to figure out who has been around with their insurance. And I mean, their insurance, their real estate. This is it. Kevin McCarthy, he didn't lie. And George Santos could probably do it. He's a clown show. But people actually believe clowns, and they believe in them because they vote for them in America.
All right. Let's just do a catch up here. Cinnamon says 45 is running a big show. Mar-a-Lago is the White House of the South. She also says, sadly, DeSantis is doing dangerous chess moves.
He is, because he's sitting back in the cut.
Black Beauty says Kevin was going to always, unfortunately, be speaker. It was allowed to play out like that to make a point. Translated, they are one. Unfortunately, unified when it counts.
Sadly.
Yeah.
And she also says, I don't think it was about packing Aisha. To me, it's the arrogance. I righteously think these politicians do packet themselves and just don't care. Shake my head.
Not in the president, not the vice presidency. Remember, those papers came from that, but they're not mutually exclusive, Black Beauty. I mean, it can be both. The packing and the arrogance, once it was found out, are equally disturbing. I'm trying to figure out why he had an office. Well, I know why he had an office, but why he had an office on the campus that no one went into for 6 years. That is the other part of it too, is like, remember, those first batch of papers were sitting in an office on the campus of UPenn that he hadn't been in 6 years. Why were papers and things of his sent there?
Like we've all moved before, have we not?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all I want. That's all I want to say. That's all I want to say.
It is arrogance, and it's not taking care of something that doesn't belong to you. If I borrow somebody's car, you are borrowing the White House when you go and work there. And I expect you to take care of it. I expect you not all over the office. The reason is if you give me a document or you give me anything, it's my responsibility to take care of it. It's not my secretary's. It's mine. I have the clearance to look at classified documents. It's really fucked up. It's like, I wonder if, it was money or if it was like your jewelry or something and they packed all that. I wonder how much care did that go to UPenn? No, classified documents did. That's nuts. You might as well just make everything transparent and just tell us what the happened today. Just as we were saying about all the CIA people who could have been put at risk or all of our agents, same thing goes for Biden too. It's like, we can't water this down. And Karine, whatever her name is, Jean Bonnet or whatever her name is, whatever. What's that child's name who's the press secretary?
Karine Jean-Pierre. Yes,
she doesn't have a poker face. No.
I heard some of her responses. They didn't cut it.
Maybe she's too honest of a human being to have to be able to stonewall people, but she can't do it. She just, in the core of her being, she's too good for the White House as a human being. She's too nice. She can't be like, no, this isn't, no. She's always like, well, and it's like, girl, no, they need somebody.
It's almost like she's apologizing a lot of the time.
Always, right?
Oh my, no.
This thing though about these papers, I thought about this like earlier this week. We just moved, and in my closet I had 2 boxes of papers I forgot that I had actually packed up from my office when I worked for the state of South Carolina. And I still had that. I'm like, why did I even keep this at the time? And was just like throwing stuff out. I don't understand. I understand how come I didn't go through those things. But again, I don't understand how come once they move those things and all the movers, how come lawyers did not go through and just say, we should double check. How about we do the packing of all the paperwork that goes out of this office so we can make sure, because that's who he had packing up this office that found the papers. So why aren't lawyers there when they're changing administrations saying, hey, nope, we clean out the Oval Office because we have to go through these papers?
You're right about that, but I'm going to say something. It's just the American concept that they all pretend to be playing business, but they don't want to pay for either the software or something that's necessary to keep your clients' information private. I can't tell you how many times I've gone and dealt with companies that are using Google, Gmail for their correspondence, mom and pops and whatever. And if whatever client you have or whatever, please, this is wrong.
Because I feel like we got more restrictions in real estate. I can't I have my real estate email on my phone. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Because of that, they make sure there's no way I cannot have a phone that isn't password protected. So if I'm just doing real estate, how come the government can't do better than what my job does?
I agree, because
think about it though. They've been very lax about that issue. Remember the big thing?
No, but it's a global thing. They don't
remember the big thing when Barack Obama took office? He wanted to keep his BlackBerry, and they're like, "No, you absolutely cannot." And so he had to relent to using the phone that was secure. When Donald Trump went in,
he totally
defied it. He was just like, no, I'm keeping my personal phone. And when that got lax, everyone around just kind of was like, okay, yeah, we're just going to kind of.
But Hillary was using her own server. That's unheard of. Let's just really be honest. They tried to accommodate all these people in the tech world, and it just wasn't possible at that time. So in my mind, there is a real reset that needs to happen on security in the White House and documents, because somewhere along the way, making all these concessions for each person's preferences, they've actually eroded the whole process, is what probably happened. And that tends to happen. But You have to have guidelines and booklets, and once people start going, well, he didn't have to sign it out because I remembered. They don't remember. There has to be people who are real sticklers. Hire a bunch of Virgos people. Make sure they're the ones who are so on the money, get organized, detail oriented. There's a reason when people are detail oriented, it's because they actually make work. They catch stuff.
There are people who get off on that. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, they do.
I'm so organized. I mean, I have clients like that. We call them type A.
Yes, right? And you need the people who are like, no, the rule says you can't do this. And you're like, what? You need that. Go back all the way before you move into making certain concessions, because it seems to me that they probably for the last 20 years have been chipping away at processes.
Okay. So comment here, Black Beauty says, Aisha, you're too good to compare your incident to that of those men politicians. You're just puzzling your brain trying to figure out the minds of those men.
No, I'm not. I've just been to a governor's house when they were changing administrations and seen how they pack things up. And I always wondered, why isn't anything in here secure? Why aren't there any security people around? Those people there when they do this in the White House, they actually did a documentary on this. And that's why I saw this. I'm wondering how come they don't have specific teams of people who actually pack up these things. If the Oval Office is full of things that have security and security clearances and things like that, why aren't people who have security and security clearances going through all of those things?
But there are agencies that are still thorough and haven't been completely dismantled by Donald Trump or even before. But it comes down to a sense of responsibility. And like LaLa said, it's a little disturbing to think that the White House isn't even together packing up. It's like your secretaries need to pack that stuff. It really is not any outside person. All the people coming in to help pack are to load the stuff. That stuff should have already been just a few boxes left to take care of. And everybody, that's not how you do stuff. And they need to change it, because this is wrong, what happened. And now we're going to have to deal with it. And I frankly don't even listen to any of it anymore. They're going to go down there. They're going to be their own Titanic. I can't.
Yeah, and if this is the case that you're going to make, the next step is to rectify the problem. Okay, if this is the case you're going to make, then we need to have a process in place for who moves these things. Make it a law. Make it executive order, something.
Yeah, but the classified documents for Joe Biden and Trump and all of them, they should have been back ages ago. So whose job was it to keep pestering and saying, I need these back. I need these back. I need these back. You don't need a shrinking violet in that job. You need somebody who comes to the door every day, who cold calls you, who is just like, I need those documents. I need those documents.
Be a bill collector.
And that's why I don't think that the National Archives.
Exactly.
That's why I don't think that the National Archives should be the agency that does that.
When you pay, you pay for the type of people you get. They don't pay people any money anymore. Stingy pays twice.
Those are civic people. They need someone. Every administration should have that one person who is tasked with making sure document A goes to document B. Puts the handcuff around their wrist, one around the suitcase, like they're supposed to do anyway. They have a process for that.
But they didn't. They've made
when they're in the skiff, why are you leaving at any point so that the person is left alone?
Making $11 an hour. Are you joking? And
not those people not the people who work in the skiff.
How much are they making?
Those people make six figures.
Oh, okay.
And they have the
who's really doing their work?
Have the security clearance. What I don't understand is how come they're letting people take these documents out of their site. Their job is to watch that document everywhere it goes, from the time it's generated to the time it's destroyed.
I think we all agree on that part. We all agree on that part, Aisha. We totally do. The whole point is somebody dropped the ball, and now we are all screwed because we don't know who's got what.
True.
We all agree on that part, but where was the background process to make it happen? It didn't happen.
I know. And they need to investigate whoever the person is. Like, they should be under a microscope. And also, can you trust them? They need to replace everybody in the whole National Archives, because the reality is, can you trust them? These have been moving things and not talking about stuff that's been missing forever. They could be selling documents. We don't know.
Or send back your book.
It's time to clean house.
Look
clean
what
house.
I found.
I'm available. Y'all want to? I'd be the toughest, hardest for anybody to get one document past my.
Okay.
All this conversation. I just want to say this point. I just think that all this conversation, we're all on the same page. Yeah. So we're being a part of this confusion that I'm talking about, because we never get to the bottom of the foundation. The foundation of everything is what is the problem. If we can't get down to the foundation and get agreements together to get things done, nothing will ever get done. A house built on sinking sand will never stand. So we agree. Why come the government can't agree?
I know.
I'm just so angry. I'm so, I've been keeping it in. My God, I've been keeping it in, trying to just chill and be with family. But when you think about it, we're walking around here trying to pay for a dozen of eggs while they're up there doing all of this garbage and espionage. And the American people are getting nothing, because the government can't even run because they're up there showing this show. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's move on. Take a breath. Have a glass of water. And let's move on. Jill had a story she wanted to talk about how the humble gas stove has become the latest flashpoint in the cultural wars of America.
Right.
I had not heard about this story, so you need to educate me on this one.
Oh, guys.
Oh, my God. Everybody was going nuts about this. Sorry, I'm losing a little bit of battery here, but I plug in. So, we had a big furor here, and the Republicans, of course, are taking a serious topic, which some people are concerned about, and making jokes about it. You'll never take my stove or my gas stove. But the Consumer Protection Product Safety Commission in December conducted some kind of research. They're charged with protecting the public from dangerous household products. They said in mid-December that the commission will consider regulating indoor air pollution from gas stoves. So they're focusing all on it, that it causes childhood asthma, and that it triggers different ailments and possibly, maybe even cancer. Now, first, so people obviously were upset about this, and they were considering banning gas stoves. So people were like, what the f-? It came out of nowhere. So, my thing was, I read the article, and there's some interesting points, and they're saying it was through science, but I wanted to know who paid for the research. Who paid for it? What lobby group? And I think it's only fair. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, when people are living in, out here, there's San Gabriel Valley. There's so many places where we have seen childhood asthma on the rise. And I can tell you, it ain't no stoves doing it, because you can drive and see the factories. And a lot of the factories that are there are essentially pharmaceutical factories. Believe it or not, they're all over. And if you start to pay attention to the factories in your neighborhood, you'll find that there are a lot of pharma ones, and they emit so much pollution. And there were regulations. You see why I was so that we know that Donald Trump deregulated everything with the EPA. Remember that, what he did? Mm-hmm. So to see all Democrats jumping in on it, AOC, my favorite girl, is going, this is really bad and blah, blah, blah. Well, all of a sudden, she just sounded like a mouthpiece for the electric lobby companies. Because first of all, ain't nobody really sure 100% about what electricity is going to do for us, considering batteries and the disposal of those. That's still up in the air. And I think we all can agree, Dems and Republicans, that it doesn't mean that you prefer fossil fuels over another. But, all of a sudden she's chiming in when basically it should be, can't we just reset and re-regulate what Donald Trump tore apart and put the emissions back, all of that back in? What is happening? And so when we went on into this, I have basically thought their big concern is about methane being released from the gas. Well, if you are starting to put people in 600 square foot houses where the kitchens are in your living area, and remember before, people
with no ventilation,
you're not requiring housing or landlords or people to provide these things. You see, everybody is doing one thing at a time, and it's a group of things. I am so upset. How stupid is everybody? How ridiculous. It's like, listen, basically, you can't sit and talk about a gas stove until you talk to the builders, everybody who's charging $4,000 for a 700 square foot apartment that's got 3 generations living in it.
That's right.
And then say, oh, they got asthma.
Yeah.
Cockroaches spread asthma. Poverty conditions, streptococcus is one of the number one reasons for it. They're in New York right now. There used to be 8 rats for every 1 person. Now it's 16. Think about that. But you want to sit up here and talk about a gas stove and wonder why nobody takes the Democrats seriously and then go, you got to trust the science. Trust the science. We're not talking about COVID at this point, which I do believe that. But I also know, don't me again about a stove when you are content to see people live in absolute squalor in America and pretend that it's coming from a gas stove. All again. Sick of them.
Well, this being my actual field.
Who paid for that is what I want to know.
This being my actual field, the climate justice and the renewable energy piece, my Monday through Friday job, I actually dug a little deeper in this, and the reason it doesn't faze me is because it really is a non-story that both sides have taken and turned into an issue. That protection agency, and I've covered them as a journalist. They protect all kinds of things. The part about the ban, they never threatened to ban anything. That came directly from the Republicans.
No, they did. They just walked it back 3 days ago. I saw there's an article about it.
I know that, and I've covered that, but I'm saying going and looking at the whole thing, because we had that issue here. They would regulate gas stoves regardless. Gas stoves, for one, are going nowhere. They're going nowhere. It's like they're not addressing the fuels. They're not addressing. They're addressing the part about they're looking for leaks. They're looking for things like that.
Well,
that is the regulation.
Housing department.
But guess what? This is why I'm not fazed by it. They did this in 2021. They announced it in 2021. And guess what? No one said anything. Right now, people are very just up in arms because it's one of those other issues that the Republicans, now that they have control of the House, it gives them something else to jump on, something else for them to investigate rather than having to deal with the inflation. Rather than having to deal with the cost of gas, they're going to investigate gas stoves, or this agency that wants to regulate gas stoves. But guess what?
I don't know. My gas bill is actually quite low. I mean, it's my electricity bill is what's off the hook.
And see, mine is the exact opposite.
Very low. I pay like $400, $500 every month for electricity. You kidding me?
Yeah, that's there crazy. Was a bill that was just delivered here for $7.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
how much? Hold on. How much?
$7.
Yeah.
$7
so
what?
We are talking about $700. We're talking about an elderly lady who has worked her butt off her whole life, and majority of her retirement money that comes in each month goes to the heating bill.
Yeah. So my point with this is that we're missing a bigger part of the conversation, and that we as people need to jump on this, because these little groupings of let's pay for research, you see, we got to look at it this way. There's a bunch of scientists out there in the world, and they need to have something to do. So they find little companies and go, let's just sit around and like talk about it all day long and research it. Who's going to pay for it? Well, I know that somebody from the orange crop community decided, well, they want to know what effect do oranges have on the, that's how crazy this has gotten. The reality is that we have to look at it very cautiously when any information comes across now, because then you have the other factor of like, well, I'm a little news organization and I need to publish stories that are going to get people to pay attention. So let me put this out because it's going to be crazy. And so what we've created,
the outrage comes. That's what
we have a very disingenuous landscape where nobody believes anything. I mean, honestly, Britney Spears had a meltdown apparently somewhere in a restaurant the other day, and people are like, that wasn't her. Paris Hilton was standing with her as a friend and had to come out and say, yes, we were together or something. We are living in some wild times where people are like, that's not true. That didn't happen.
That was
yeah.
So
yeah,
let me just jump in.
Like, it's just, look, this issue here is just as bad as when they were up in arms about, oh, America's coming for your hamburgers. It's not that deep.
But it is a little deep to say that they actually spent money on something and came up with a conclusion that is absolute and means nothing and does nothing for us.
The same is true with the people who do the studies on
methane
gas. I've read about 100 dozen of those. You have either you have the cattle industry, they pay for their own study, or you have climate justice organizations.
Yeah, but there should be something that shows you when it is being paid for, and it should be on the beginning of an article.
And that's what I agree with.
But here's the difference. Here's the difference. The difference is when you get the information from an article versus reading the study. Read the study. It tells you who's.
Yeah, but who's going to pay for every study, Aisha? I don't have the money to keep downloading to pay for people's studies. You do know that. It costs money. You've got to join up. I don't have an EDU kind of, a lot of time. It should all be free, in my opinion. It shouldn't be not all the time. A study should be for everybody to read. A study should be for everyone to read. But then you have companies that are like, well, we put out studies and we have people pay $3,500 for a study or $30. I know how that works, but it shouldn't be. A study that's supposed to be off our backs that our government could possibly fund, bitch, y'all need to make all those here so we can get to see it. We need to see it. This is where we are. Because you've made it such an untrustworthy landscape that I don't believe anything you say. I used to do focus groups and saw how easy it was to turn one person. Do you like this doll? Do you think this doll is racist? By the time you get around the table, there'd be at least one person who would have looked at like Barbie and been, she's a bitch or something. It's just like, come on. And then who are we to decide which person's personality is? Look, the whole thing about the stove is we live in a country where people are living in their houses like Willy Wonka's grandparents, and they're all in these rooms. Gas. We've got people living in their cars. We've got people cooking on a Bunsen burner outside of their cars. You think I give a the fact that this was even, come on, Democrats need to do better. It was a direct shot at them. Like, you all pride yourselves on being so above it all, and we really care about people. But your think tanks are coming up with like this. Like I said, I'm done with both sides. I'm all of them.
The American attention span, though, isn't long enough to, the sad part, isn't long enough to sit and read an actual study.
That's true, truth. But it should be there.
So people go and they look for the shortcut, which is going to be a news article, which you have to remember is somebody else's interpretation of facts that they actually viewed themselves, that you didn't, and they know that you haven't.
So that if somebody takes my story and twists it, which some people have done in my life, and I've sent them emails and said, you need to fix that because that's not what I said. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to have some accountability.
I'm going to cut it here.
Okay.
Just some comments before we move to our next conversation piece. And Regina says, and let's not even start with the water crisis in Flint, SMH. She also says that in the 90s, kids in my HUD funded program were living in apartments covered in chipping lead paint. They do not care about the poor.
No, they don't.
And then Black Beauty says, let's not forget just about every state in America drinks recycled fecal water translated.
Not just about every
water.
state. That is every state. Even when you
state.
get like spring water, whatever, you know,
I mean,
unless
it's
it's
impossible.
purified.
You just better hope that the facility is on par and got it together. Sorry for the pun.
Well, if we want to talk about that, Nestle, I mean, no, they ain't happened to Nestle.
Yeah, California, we keep selling it.
All right.
Isn't Nestle using tap water for their bottled water?
Dasani.
I think Dasani is what, a Coca-Cola company? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes,
they use like tap water straight out
and it tastes like it, girl.
Right?
I can't even drink Dasani.
Exactly.
Evian. You taste it. It's so funny.
Naive spelled backwards is Evian. Remember Evian bottle?
Yes, I do.
Naive. You spell it the other way?
Naive. You know what? The apartment complex that I moved from, in the last month, I was like washing and everything that last couple of weeks with bottled water, because every other day they were like, oh yeah, we got a problem with the water. And I'm like, I can't get out of here. I can't get out of here fast enough. And my daughter and I went and drove to the very back of the complex because we live near the front. So you don't need to go to the back for anything unless you just one day decide you're just going to drive up there and see what's going on. So we were taking things to the dumpster as we were moving stuff out and packing things up. And we get back there and the whole back is dug up. They've got like the pipes out the ground. And we saw that. I'm like, I'm washing my dishes with bottled water. I'm washing
old pipes can do a lot of damage.
Go to my mother's house to
damage.
And
old pipes.
And it was like, they're like, oh, we're turning the water off because we got to fix
poison you.
They turned it back on. It's like, when I turned the water back on, and it came out brown and then red and then brown, and then it's like it had to run to go clear. I'm like, I'm so glad we're out of here in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on up to that story. Next conversation piece: non-melanated women and Kensington Palace going after Doria Ragland, mother of Meghan Markle. Jill, you wanted to talk about this?
Ooh, yeah, I guess, they've just mobilized. And I mean, it's not just white women. There are, but the majority are English women and some of their people who want to feel connected to them in this country. They started releasing that she was in prison and that the girl lived with her dad and he raised her, and to slander another Black woman, where it's like, I don't care what you think about this Meghan and her husband, Harry, but leave her mother has nothing to do with anything. And I find it really
confusing her mother with a guy named Dorian.
Dorian, yes. But they know that. It was a guy who was on radio in England Tom Bauer, who just leaked and said enough and said, I can't really speak on it because it would be, it's just he knew something, but he couldn't say anything. The reason he didn't say it in so many words is because it would be defamation and slander. That's why he didn't hear. But I'm telling you, the more they do with this with her, the more I have so little respect for the crown, the royals, and I just wish they'd all just go away, because the reality is, I think that, even Harry's grandmother, and I know that it sounds like this boy really loved his gran and whatever, but I think she did him dirty. And she could have stopped that shit.
In the room here, the pink elephant in the room here is that white women as a whole, US side and in England, are upset at the fact that the one thing that they felt they were entitled to, which was to be, and it's all their fairy tales from the time that they're very little, that they can be a princess, or that the royal family, they marry in their bloodline and they stay pure in this and that, and it bothers them that they cannot be his type. His type is her, and they cannot be her, and it them off. I was looking, this woman was saying today on Twitter, oh, can you believe this? He lost his family I'm like, wait a second. What do you mean he lost his family? He has one. His wife, his 2 kids.
Thank you.
That's his family. And I'd be kind of if he put his brother before his kids. I'm sorry. I side eye anyone who doesn't put their kids first. Right? I love I have 2 sisters. I love my sisters to death. However, I'm going to jump in line in front of my child. It's one of those things. It's like it's automatic. You don't think that way. So for anyone to say, "Oh, he chose his kids over his brother," to me is asinine. But white women are really letting their prejudice show because they have no other reason to hate her except for the color of the skin. You don't hear them talking about KKK Karen or Catherine or whatever her name is. And it is evident in just the smug look on her face that she is a royal. It is evident.
Oh, yeah.
That story about her giving this woman on her wedding day because your little brat doesn't like the flower girl dress, and there's a person sitting there ready to alter the dress any way this little brat wants it, and you're trying to make this the bride's problem because it's not you. You're not in the center of all this. Well, let's not forget, I watched that movie on Lifetime. William did cheat on her while they were together. Y'all are mad too because Harry will not cheat on this woman. He's not.
The way he looks at her is wild.
Royal things, and I'm sorry.
I mean, the way he looks at her is like something that everybody is just kind of like, yo.
And they are mad.
My man looked at me like that because that's pretty for real. Like,
and also remember this too. They had no problem when Kate was trying to push her sister Pippa off on Harry at that wedding. They had no issues with Pippa, who turned out to be out here with the best man at the wedding.
I forgot about that.
I didn't forget.
No,
I forgot about that.
Hody do.
No, they perfect. They all perfect.
Oh my!
But there's, and let's not forget that Anne. Everybody forgets that Princess Anne. Her first boyfriend was Camilla's husband.
They all sleep together.
Yeah, because the circle's small. So when
you've seen Camilla, there's obviously some inbreeding there. Have you seen Camilla's mother and grandmother?
I know. She looks the queen look better than her. I was like,
oh my God, I have never seen such dryness in a picture.
Okay, let me look at the comments. Jen's going, Aisha, exactly. She meant to say you're completely correct. Jen says, I hate this predictive text on this phone. And Jen says, yes, Aisha, you're 100% correct. The Royals are one interesting family.
I just found it really horrible because there's no sense, they are really operating like bots and really working extensively to just,
look, when you call your press arm the firm.
But the worst part of it is that for those people who seem to be oblivious as to how America works, of course, many people live with their one parent because sometimes one lives in a better school district, or, it doesn't mean anyone had custody over it. It's just like it's easier to get somewhere. I used to travel from Brooklyn into Manhattan with my daughter for a school, and it's just the way it goes. But then we have these dimwits from the middle of America, the Karens, that now it's like, what have the Karens started doing? You know where they all went? They went to Spare. They went to his page to just vent. We don't see, that's where they all are. If you want to find a Karen, you go there and you hear and see the most disgusting passages from old women, young women, non-melanated women who are livid and angry that there's a white man looking at a black woman this way. They are ready to tear folks' eyes out, child. It's like, she's black. She's this. She's not black. She tried to pass. I'm like, I look at her and I don't see a white woman or anybody passing. I see a biracial girl easily. But see,
but then we opening a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, we are. That's another topic.
If you really want to get an idea as to where she is at emotionally, read the interview that she did with Mariah Carey, and the two of them talk about growing up as biracial women, and Jill and I've had this conversation before, their experiences were different and how they expressed their experiences being different, with Meghan having a Black mother and Mariah having a white mother.
Yes.
And they talked about the fundamental differences, like they were talking specifically about pink oil moisturizer for their hair. And Meghan was saying, oh my gosh, my mother used to put that in my hair, and you know, I loved it. And Mariah Carey was like, yeah, she's like, and you know, my mother, being a white woman, didn't know these things. So I get this from my grandmother and my aunts.
Right.
And so if you really want to know how she was raised and what she thinks about herself and her own identity, read that interview, because she gets like to the not just the heart of it, but she talks about growing up biracial, but she also talks about growing up with her mother's Black family, which with Mariah Carey she did grow up with her father's family more than her mother's family. But at the same token, because she was in her mother's custody, she didn't have the same kind of connection that Meghan did. Mariah talks about how her mother didn't do her hair, or like her hair would get matted, and her mother didn't keep her hygiene good. And Meghan was like, she's like, no, my mother was a stickler for the hygiene and making sure I combed through my hair. And if I didn't comb through properly, my mother went through with the comb properly. So
there's an education here that some women are not able to understand. And they're part of an era that were always perplexed by biracial kids. They were always the ones, probably the tormentors that we all knew growing up. And now they found this leverage with, you know, in England, let's face it, there's never been a woman in such high stature other than like a few parliament people like Black women or Shirley Bassey. So it's been a real eye-opener for someone to be, they were being told, you have to value this person. You should. We think they're great. And yet the firm never came out and said that, but Harry did. So it's been something that I go back to it many times about plantation mistresses and their resentment and their anger. And they should be mad that their men are voting to put them way back further than ever. But I will not stand here and watch them dog a Black woman like Doria.
But the thing that makes them really mad, the thing that makes them really mad, that sticks in their craw, that they just can't seem to get over, is the fact that she was okay with walking away. They cannot comprehend why she would not want to stay and just be a royal and you know, go through all the, it's like, really all you had to do is show up and go here and do this and that, and you have all this money.
Wish all I had to do. She wants to do more, you know. Ain't nobody interested in cutting ribbons and like standing out there shaking hands. Well, remember
too, she came into that marriage with $5 million of her own
money. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Kate didn't come to that marriage with nothing but a womb.
I mean, Dr. Vibe, you're Canadian, and that's part of the Commonwealth. And she also lived in your country. That was her home. How do you feel about all this?
I think the way I agree with what you're saying. It's a lot of hypocrisy, and a lot of people they say you can't turn your back on the monarchy. You have to walk. Right? You've got to walk the walk. They don't believe in saying no. Like that's.
She's also a U.S. citizen. That's the other thing too, is that she didn't need British citizenship. She could walk away. See, Kate doesn't have that option. Why? Because she lives in the UK. She was born in the UK. That's where her roots are.
But their little
Meghan
kids aren't going to want to do this.
I don't have to be here.
Their kids aren't going to want to follow this path. It's over. I would think that, you know, William might be the last one, but the poor little boy
George is going to be king material someday.
But why? Why should he be? It's brutal. The whole thing needs to change. Why would you subject your children to something like that? I mean, we've seen progress.
To be honest, I don't pay attention a lot to that family because again, if you want to talk about people who have privilege and all that, that family is the largest landowners in the world.
Absolutely,
family. And if you don't have to take long on how they acquired a lot of that land.
Thank you.
Right.
So that's why I don't say a lot about them.
Yeah. But I only said something because They want to come and mar and disparage a Black woman
That's what they
who
always
was
do.
raising her kid, and that's what they all do. But I'm here for.
They were. What was it? The girl. This one lady was so upset by the fact, like, they had a picture of their daughter, and she's like, "Oh, I look so much better than her." It's like you compared yourself to a baby. You put your picture side by side with a baby and said that you look better than a baby. How insecure are you?
Yeah. Well, they seem to breed a lot of insecure women there.
Well, like I say, a lot of these days, ladies, the more I know, the less I understand.
Look,
right.
The only thing you need to know is that when she was 19 years old, Diana Spencer married someone who was 38 years old, and they were married 3 days, and then he goes on a 5-week vacation without her,
right,
and with Camilla.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know about that.
They played her. It was a cuckold. I mean,
her family,
really
she didn't want to marry him. Her family, who was like a distant cousin, forced her into that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Let's end off our conversation today. Unfortunately, we have lost some people over the last few days.
Yeah.
So a number of people who have, some people say transitioned: Jeff Beck, Lisa Marie Presley, supermodel Tatjana, Patitz, and then Robbie Knievel. Should be Robbie Knievel, not Robbie Knievel. Any thoughts on any of those individuals?
All of them. These all crushed my heart. These are people who even though I don't know them, grew up with them so closely that they felt like they were friends, or they felt like they were such a big part of my life. And I cried when I heard about Lisa Marie Presley.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself, this poor tortured soul, although she was doing things, my first thought was, when they said cardiac arrest, she died of a broken heart. That's what that is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, to be honest, I actually told people, and people laugh at me, but I'm really serious. I'm like, all these people are leaving here for a reason. And I'm like, Lord, if you coming and you coming for this first batch, please don't leave me here with these crazy people, because everybody's leaving in droves. Well, and it's sad.
I sat and I watched at the end of the year, I was watching the different tributes of who passed away in 2022. Came near the end of the tribute and realized that someone I went to Fisk with died in July, and I didn't even know that she was in the Elvis movie. She played Big Mama Thornton.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I mean, I remember when I met her. She was my friend Rashawn's roommate at Fisk, and we used to eat dinner together all the time. And about like a year ago, she had sent me a message. I was like, oh my God, just in her sleep at 44.
But I gotta say, I was reading something recently about the number one killer now in America is heart disease.
Yeah.
Silent killer.
And we had gotten a big control over it, I guess, from the 40s, and more awareness was happening. And but sadly, since the 80s and whatever, there have been some dietary things that people are not paying attention to, and a more sedentary lifestyle, not enough exercise. And it really has caught up. And what's happening now is they're seeing the actual results. Talk about a study, but they're seeing it in the young people as they age in their 40s, and they are having serious cardiovascular. And it's not just because of COVID. They're saying it was diet, it was living in poverty, it was all these things of what people, the food deserts, stress, all of it now, and it's higher than ever for those reasons. So this is what I'm talking about, research, guys. When there's research, you take around the whole thing to see what is actually happening. And that's basically it. We've not been really nice to our citizens here for a long time. In fact, it's gone backwards, and our life expectancy is lower in America now. Lower, at least 5 years off now, I think.
But the challenge with heart disease is that they still they haven't invested the money in finding this out, but they still don't know exactly how to find it early in women. The signs that it shows on the female body are different than men. You know, they'll say like, oh, you'll start to get the right arm tingle, and that doesn't happen with women.
There's a test.
They
found
out that doesn't have what
there is a test that you take that you can ask, and I get ARP, so I was reading my ARP newsletter, and it's a whole thing on heart disease this week's issue, and it really talks about the test. It also mentions the stem cells that they've been working on, because remember, I know Donald Trump had started messing with that whole stem cell research. We had a lot of stem cells that got sent up to space. A lot of stem cells now will be coming back from space, because apparently they incubate faster, or they grow faster. So it's another kind of thing that not even research, is active advancements in medicine that they are doing, that are coming back to be like for the ventricles, or to be certain valves that are in heart things. So if you don't get the ARP bulletin, I do suggest you Google it or try to find the article about it. It's called America's War Against Heart Disease. So there have been a lot of things moving forward, but yeah, there is a test that I think we can take. So I want to send my love to the families and everybody going through that. And even my love to, and, support Taylor Dane was, going through colon cancer. And
I did know that.
Just noticed it from a routine screening, and they took out, I think, 11 or 12 inches of her intestine. So we just send good thoughts and prayers. I think she's doing much better, but there's a few articles about her explaining this. Since last July, she's been dealing with that.
Wow. Well, I want to tell you something. Look, I'm going to pull from my background as a research professor here. If you want to know how any medication or test will affect you individually, these are the questions that you need to know. You have to ask, and you can look in the study. Who was it normed on? That is the big question. When we say who was it normed on, that tells you who they actually used as a test subject to determine how a medication or a test will react. So you need to find out how many women, how many people of color, how old they were, how much they weighed, and what were their health outcomes before they participated in this study. So when you look at any study, the thing that you want to know before you know the outcome are who are the test subjects or the participants, and ask yourself, who are they normed on? Gender, racial background, body weight, particularly with medication. So for example, most people don't know this, but they norm a lot of our medications that they prescribe for anybody, particularly for heart disease, on white men who are about 5'7" and weigh 145 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So if you give this to someone who's 5'9", 300 pounds, it's going to have, even if it's male or female, have half the efficacy, because it's normed for a weight that is substantially less.
Wow.
So keep that in mind whenever you're asking.
I think that's a great idea, but I still think you need to find doctors and not be. I can see a bunch of people already like going, well, I need to know this or I need that. I don't know if knowing some of that information is beneficial, because sometimes that's how we ended up with people not understanding COVID and the transmission. And people doing, you need to have doctors, there are people who find a great cardiologist, find a wonderful doctor. Let's fight for better health insurance for people, because I'm not a numbers person, and I would be everybody.
But the reason I say it is good to know, but you have to be vigilant about it. And the only reason I know this, because it almost killed me not doing it, was when the EpiPens, they had put the dose in those pens for children, not adults. And I could not figure out why I had to go through 3 EpiPens just to get what I needed for my adult sized body.
Wow.
That one time I really could have died if I hadn't kept injecting myself. And then when I sent the pens back, I got the recall thing, and I
Why didn't you call your doctor?
I did call my doctor, but you don't expect that when you get a regular EpiPen for an adult, you don't know that they put the children's size dose in the adult pen.
Wow.
Because you can only see like that much, and if it's full, it's full.
All right, let's end it on that.
To be very, very careful.
Let's end it on that. So look, we went well into bonus time, but it's been a minute since last year. These ladies have been live, family, since last year. So lots to chat about now and lots to chat in the future. As always, want to thank the ladies for taking time to share with us. And a lot of you have been on for most of the conversation live. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. Much
you.
Appreciated. But before we leave, we have to get them to share their contact information. So first off, the Realty Goddess.
And that's where you're going to find me on all platforms, that Realty Goddess. And I've kind of upticked a little bit on Tickety Talk. So join me there as well.
All right. Next up, they call her
I'm
Jill
still
Jones.
at Jill Jones Music on Instagram and Jill D. Jones on Twitter. And yeah, I'm going to maybe get into TikTok too. And eat your vitamin C this year.
Thank you. And I'd like to see what you do on TikTok. I think that's going to be interesting. All right. And then Aisha J.
Yeah, you can find me at Aisha Staggers on Twitter. I'm kind of taking a backseat because I am trying to finish this novel this year. I said I was going to do it. So I've been spending more time writing.
All right. Fantastic. And then myself, you can catch me at all these different places. The Dr. Vibe Show website. You have email. Oh, there we go back. Let me go back here. There we go. We've got email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Twitter at drvibeshow. And then Instagram, the drvibeshow. That's it. The drvibeshow. And since Jill's going on TikTok, maybe I have to follow her on TikTok. So maybe we'll do something together on TikTok, myself and Jill Jones. That would catch some people off guard. You think? So a few last things. Again, check out Ebony Occasions /discount /Ebony10. Coupon code for the website is Ebony10. And it entitles customers to a 10% discount off their order. That's for their Valentine's Day stuff. Please take advantage of it. Next up, if you're watching this live on the 14th or 15th of January 2023, on the 16th on the Morning Vibe at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we have Dr. Tachi on the Morning Vibe talking about media in 2022 and what to look forward in media in 2023. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. And also, if you do that, make sure you hit the notification button. Is important. And also like it on Facebook. And then if you want to learn about how to launch a podcast, check me on January 19th, February 2nd, February 16th to talk about all things podcasting. There is the link. That is it. I think, as we say, sticking with a fork, that I'm done. You can catch replays of this epic conversation at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and on the Dr. Vibe Show website. So I think we have it all covered. First show of a new year and a lot of good stuff to come. As always, I want to finish off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourself grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And we'll put these comments up. Jen says, great conversation, everybody. And Black Beauty says, loved this episode. Well, we loved you being part of it, either live on the replay. We will catch you next week live, or when you subscribe, you know when to catch us next. God bless, peace, well, keep the faith, walk good, and remember to give yourselves grace. Bye. Bye.